there's something really interesting about the games we grow up with. Because when you go back to them years later, you realize they're actually just simple. The story is simple, the characters are simple, the goal is simple, and yet they still work. Because sometimes it's not about complexity, it's just about whether something is fun.
Our princess, though, is in another castle.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You should try another castle, maybe. She ain't in this one.
All right, so this is one of those movies where you already know what you're getting going in. It's Mario. You're not here for some deep, layered story. You're here for the world, the characters, and just seeing how they bring all that to life. And I think that's what makes this one interesting to talk about, because it's not really trying to reinvent anything. It's trying to take something incredibly simple and make it as fun and watchable as possible. And for the most part, it actually does a really good job of that. With that in mind, welcome back to The Rank. I'm John. And just a quick heads up on format, I'll hit a handful of behind-the-scenes facts called the Potent Notables, then I'll do a movie overview with spoilers, and I'll finish by ranking the movie in 10 categories. And today I'm going to be ranking the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the 2023 animated family adventure starring Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, and Jack Black. Based on the Nintendo game with a screenplay by Matthew Fogel and directed by Aaron Horvath, Michael Jelinek, Pierre Leduc, and Fabian Pollack. So this is going to be my first family movie specific ranking. So let's find out how it did, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
As always, we start the Potent Notables with the box office. The Super Mario Bros. Movie made $574.9 million domestically and $785.9 million internationally for a worldwide total of $1.36
billion.
And this was against a budget of $100 million, which was lower than I was expecting, actually. Talk about a huge hit. I mean, this is the definition of a blockbuster. From there, one of the coolest things about this movie is just how deeply it pulls from Mario's history, going all the way back to the character's origins. Early in the movie, there's an arcade cabinet called Jumpman, which was Mario's original name when he debuted in Donkey Kong. The name Mario itself came later on, inspired by Nintendo of America's landlord, Mario Segale. And that same idea carries into the movie's structure, where it constantly recreates moments from the games. At the very beginning, when Mario and Luigi are running through Brooklyn, it mirrors the side-scrolling movement of Super Mario Bros., even ending with Mario sliding down a pole just like he does at the end of a level. And later, when they descend into the sewer, there's a sign that says Level 1-2, which references the famous underground stage where players discovered the Minus World glitch, here reimagined as an actual portal to another world. The movie also sneaks in a ton of classic in-game references. When Mario and Toad approach the castle, the guards actually say, "The princess is in another castle," which is a direct callback to the game's original repeated fake-outs. And during the Rainbow Road chase, Mario pulls off a shortcut by dropping down to a lower section, something players could actually do in Mario Kart 64. And beyond Mario itself, the film is packed with nods to Nintendo as a whole. The Brooklyn Pizzeria is called Punch-Out!, referencing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, where Mario actually appeared as a referee. Inside, you can spot characters like Little Mac and Glass Joe on the walls. And in Mario's room, there are references to other franchises too, like an R-Wing from Star Fox, a Captain Falcon Racer from F-Zero, and even Mario playing Kid Icarus. There are even more subtle nods if you're paying attention. A French restaurant in Brooklyn is called Chasse du Canard, which translates to Duck Hunt. And the plumbing commercial music is actually pulled directly from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which is a deep cut that longtime fans will definitely recognize. The movie also pulls from lesser-known parts of Mario's history, like Spike, the guy who mocks Mario and Luigi early on. He's actually Foreman Spike from Wrecking Crew, where he originally served as their rival. And even Mario and Luigi's family designs were based on unused Nintendo concept art, giving the movie a connection to ideas that never even made it into the games. But those are the Potent Notables. Let's go to the movie overview. I'm guessing that most of you who are watching or listening to this has seen this movie, as it was a gigantic hit when it came out. But I decided to give it a watch with Super Mario Galaxy coming out this weekend. Now, right off the bat, the movie is a lot of fun. You've got the Koopa ship with Bowser at the lead, and he's sacking the Ice Kingdom or whatever of the blue penguins. Anyway, these poor adorable penguins are going to get captured by Bowser, and he's also going to steal their star. Now, it kind of feels like they could have just used that star to defeat Bowser, but then, movie's over, right? So, tough to kill the plot of the movie in the first 2 minutes. What's really fun are all the references to Nintendo's games throughout the movie, but it's especially prevalent in the beginning. We meet Spike and Mario and Luigi, and we get the Super Mario Brothers plumbing commercial, and it's all great stuff. I especially enjoyed the homage to the 2D side-scrolling adventures in the run to their first job, and they chose to just give a little bit of exposition about our main characters in the beginning, and show that they're actually pretty capable, if a little luckless. So they leaned into their lore during this time because they could. It was well done. Build toward the plot and have a little fun. Then when we actually get to the plot, they dial it back a little bit because we're actually just going to be part of that world at that point. But what is the plot? Well, Mario and Luigi are going to get sucked into a pipe portal into another world. Unfortunately for them, not only is Luigi going to end up in peril because they get separated, but the whole world that they've portaled into is also in peril because of Bowser. He's bent on world domination, and he's also a little bit of a hopeless romantic. But we've got a cast of characters to meet. First, it's Toad, who's going to help Mario to meet Princess Peach. So we're introduced to the Mushroom Kingdom and its crazy transportation system, and simultaneously introduced to the Darklands, which made it look like things were a lot worse for Luigi than for Mario. And of course, they sprinkle in those fun bits from the games, like when they get to the palace finally, the guards say that the princess is in another castle. That's fun. But within the walls of that palace, we're finding out that they think that Bowser is coming to destroy the Mushroom Kingdom. But Peach is going to try to conscript the Kong army to help them. And it's shortly after that she's going to meet Mario with a judo takedown. And she goes from the judo takedown to almost immediately being interested in Mario joining her on her adventure. And yes, she does test his mettle with an obstacle course. But really for me, the way I was buying it was I just was like, well, he's the only other human she's ever met. So that's probably why. Even so, her decision making did feel a little hasty. But the point is, we need to meet Donkey Kong. And the way we do is through a Smash Brothers style battle between Mario and Donkey Kong, the winner of which gets to have the Kong army at their disposal, which essentially keeps things status quo for DK. I mean, he doesn't really have much to fight for other than honor, I suppose. And while a gorilla literally kicks Mario's butt up and down this arena, all Mario needs is a catsuit. He scratches DK a couple times and then jumps on him from a high height, and Donkey Kong is just done. I get that we're trying to show Mario as scrappy and persistent, but I don't know, I feel like they could have made Donkey Kong a little more resilient. But that's it. Thanks to Mario, Peach now has access to the Kong army, and they're all headed to the Mushroom Kingdom along the Rainbow Road in a bunch of go-karts. But as is so often the case in this movie, Bowser somehow knows all the movements of his enemy, which means he's able to ambush them. The Great Kong army was supposed to be the saving factor in this war, right? But instead they just lose. They get destroyed. So it seems like they really wouldn't have been a worthy adversary for Bowser at all. Either way, Mario and Donkey Kong are going to get some bonding time after this. Because the Rainbow Road is destroyed, they fall into the water, the Kong army gets captured, and only Peach and Toad get away and they fly onto the Mushroom Kingdom. And while Mario and DK bond inside a giant fish that they got eaten by apparently, and then eventually escape, Peach is getting proposed to by Bowser. Eventually she does accept the proposal, although it did feel slightly coerced. Since Bowser threatened to kill her Toad friend. But don't worry, Peach had no plans on going through with that wedding. She had Toad get her an ice flower, and she takes the power up before the nuptials and starts to save the day. She stops all the cages of the enemies that have been captured by Bowser from being lowered into the lava, Luigi included. But she can't hold everyone off by herself. Will DK and Mario arrive in time? Of course they do! DK's gonna pull all the cages back up, and Mario flies in and saves a falling Luigi before he falls into the lava. And why? It's because he's wearing a raccoon suit, which means he can fly. Now, this part is absolutely true to the game, where the leaf was introduced as a power-up in Super Mario Bros. 3. And when you get that power-up, you get put in a raccoon suit, which can fly because the tail moves. It didn't make sense then, it doesn't make sense now, but it sure was and is a lot of fun. So DK and Mario save the day, but the battle isn't over. Bowser, who was frozen by Peach, gets unfrozen, at least his head does, and he orders Bomber Bill to launch and destroy the Mushroom Kingdom. But it ain't gonna work for you with Mario on the case. He gets the Bomber Bill to chase him, and tricks him to going into a portal pipe, where Bomber Bill promptly explodes in the ether between both worlds. And this explosion ends up sucking most everybody into Brooklyn. Hope looks lost though, as Bowser has the upper hand and the star at his disposal. But we're talking about Mario and Luigi here. They'll never give up. And they don't. They end up with the star, defeat Bowser, make him eat a shrinking mushroom, and then put him in a cup, and eventually in a mid-credit scene, we'll see that he's actually going to end up in a bird cage, still holding a flame for Peach because he's singing the Peaches song that he sang earlier in the movie. Anyway, that's the whole movie, except for a Yoshi egg at the very end post-credits. But let's see how it ranked.
Oh, wait.
So the rank is where I rank the movie based on 10 categories: story, acting, originality, heart/message, film coherence, visuals/animation, music, rewatchability, my kids' rank, and my rank. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And before I dive into the ratings, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, the first category is story. I mean, it's a pretty generic story, but it's everything you'd sort of expect from this movie. Now, I wasn't expecting it to start in the real world, but I was cool with that. Mario and Luigi, but mostly Mario, saved the day. It's a good story. I gave it a 3.25. So that brings us to acting. And here's the thing, I really don't understand the hate towards Chris Pratt on this. I thought he was a good Mario. Also, I love Charlie Day. I thought the voice acting talent in this one was fantastic, especially Jack Black. I gave it a 5. So that brings us to originality. It's a very by-the-numbers type of story. I thought it was cool how they incorporated all the lore of decades of Nintendo gaming though, so I will give it some props for that. And maybe a little bit for the fact that it blends the real world of the gaming world. I gave it a 2.25, which is probably generous. So that brings us to heart/message. Well, I suppose the message is persistence pays off. Keep trying and you'll succeed. It's not the worst message, but it's also sort of veiled in the premise that you'll still need superpowers to get there. I don't know that this movie was really trying to send a family message as much as it was just trying to entertain you. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just doesn't help it in this category. Although I do think the persistence pays off thing is a good message, so I gave it a 2.5. So that brings us to film coherence. There are quite a few things that don't really cohere in this. What's the point of needing the Kong army if they're just gonna suck against the Koopas anyway? The princess just accepts Mario and Toad coming with her without any real pushback? And why wouldn't the penguins just use the star if they had it? And why does everyone seem to know everything that's going on, especially Bowser? Like he just always knows what's happening. So there are no secrets at all. But we don't see anyone acting as operatives or anything. And I get it. It's a family movie. It's the Super Mario Brothers. It doesn't need to be that deep. But, you know, these are some inconsistencies, so it's just not super coherent. I gave it a 1.75. So that brings us to visuals/animation. I really enjoyed the animation. It felt very true to the source material while also being modern. I gave it a 5, which brings us to music. And I absolutely loved the music in this. I loved all the moments where they incorporated old game music into it, and I enjoyed the new material. And I also enjoyed when it was just the old music. Can't get much better in this category, honestly. I gave it a 5. So that brings us to rewatchability. Well, I've watched this a ton and I still find it enjoyable, so I think rewatchability is pretty high. One knock I'll give it is that it's definitely not as fun to watch on my own as an adult without the kids as it is to watch with the kids. But still, really high rewatchability. I gave it a 4.5. So that brings us to my kids' rank. So my 7-year-old gave it a 4. He didn't like that they spoiled Bowser in the beginning, I guess. I don't know why that bothered him, but it did. And then ironically, my 5-year-old's favorite part is that Bowser comes in the beginning, and he gave it a 5. It works out to a 4.5. All right, now we're gonna go to the last category, which is my rank. I think this movie is a lot of fun. If I'm just looking at it with a critical lens, it's probably not the best, but I'm not doing that, thank God. I'm saying this is a family movie. How does it work as a family movie? And I think it works great. It may not be accessible for the super young like a G-rated movie would be, but that's not what they were going for. They rated it PG. So anyway, I gave it a 4.25. So that puts the total for the Super Mario Brothers movie at a 33, which puts it in the tier, I'd watch it again. So this is the first strictly family movie ranking that I've done, which means it's number 1 as of right now, but next week, I'm gonna have Super Mario Galaxy, so we'll actually have 2 movies right away. We'll find out which one was better. But if you're ranking along with me, drop your score in the comments. But thanks for listening and or watching. Check out any of my other movie ranking or sitcom ranking episodes on this channel. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like. For up-to-date rankings, check out my website at therankpodcast.com, where you can also email me at info or john@therankpodcast.com. And if you really want to support the show, you can become a patron at patreon.com/therankpodcast, which is newly revamped. And if you watch the sitcom episodes, I put my laugh counters on there for you, so you can see which jokes actually made me laugh. All right, that's it. Goodbye. Story, acting, originality, heart slash mess.
Cut!
Story, acting, originality, heart slash. Fuck.
Okay, let's watch the language there.